All right, welcome to the Life of a Marketer podcast. We air on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And today uh, we have another interesting guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself and introduce what he does. So take it away.
Hey, everybody. I'm Billy Cripe. I'm the head of marketing for CIBO Technologies, as well as the founder and principal at Bloomthink Fractional Marketing Consulting, which is my own little company. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, and Billy, how long have you been in marketing?
Oh, good grief. It was a long and circuitous journey, but I've been actually doing the discipline of marketing for about 20 years. Started life actually out as a programmer developer, um, which was an interesting route into marketing. I like to say that, my code was never that good, so they pushed me into marketing, and I absolutely fell in love.
Awesome, awesome. All right, very good, very good. So let's dive in a little bit. What's the best thing about being in the marketing industry?
You know, I absolutely love being in marketing because I love being able to both tell the story about what we do, whoever the we is, whatever organization or organizations that I'm working for and with. So that story crafting is just an absolute delight. And then the other side that I absolutely love is really working hip to hip and cheek to cheek with the sales team. I come from a very deep sales enablement background, which was, doing everything from helping sales engineers with demos and technical developments and bespoke, technical presentations of all of the possibilities of different technologies that they could do or that they were trying to share with their prospects, all the way down to creating sales kits and equipping my sales teams with the tools and assets and storylines and narratives that they need to be able to go out and be successful. Because at the end of the day, there's no marketer out there who gets paid in leads. We all get paid in dollars. And so we need to make sure that we're giving our sales counterparts and colleagues exactly what they need to be wildly successful.
Awesome, awesome. And so you've been a fractional CMO, and you're working at CIBO. Tell us a little bit more. What are you doing at CIBO, and who do you like to work with as a fractional CMO? Start with that first one. What do you do at CIBO, and then tell us a little bit more about kind of what you're doing there and what you can do, and who you like to help.
Yeah, sure. So I have two roles that I bounce back and forth between. I'm currently the full-time head of marketing, marketing VP, reporting up to the CEO and the board of directors at CIBO Technologies, which is a small agricultural technology startup. Um, on the other side, I also have my own business, Bloomthink, which is a fractional CMO consulting organization. I usually do one or the other. And in the case of the organization of CIBO Technologies, I started out doing fractional CMO work for them. And then that relationship blossomed. We said, let's stop dating, let's get married. And now I'm with them full time and have ramped down all of my Bloomthink clients onto kind of a low back burner simmer at this point. When it comes to, who I like to work with and how I like to work, the first is, really understanding the lay of the land. And so it's working with the product and the engineering teams from a technology standpoint. I have a development and technology background, like I mentioned before. And so being able to sit with them and see and learn and listen to them about what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing is really important. That helps us understand what the total addressable market is, what the critical market needs are, and what problems we're trying to solve. Once we have a good understanding of the lay of the land from both the target addressable market standpoint and the technology or the development product service standpoint, then I go to the sales and the business development teams, because they're the ones who are out there every day pounding the pavement, telling the stories, talking with prospects, and they're hearing the challenges that the customers and prospects are trying to solve. And it's my job then, with me and my teams, to try and figure out how best to marry the solutions to the problems that the market is having with the technology products or services that we're building and creating. And so it's really that marriage of what's going on inside the company walls to what we're hearing outside of the company walls that I absolutely love doing. And then that's got to be kept fresh, right? It's never a one and done sort of an activity. You're always having to do that listening, that understanding of what's happening out in the market space to continually adjust and pivot and tune and tweak your message, your story, your materials out so that they are resonating the best with the market. Sometimes that takes time. It's not always success and explosions and fireworks on the first try. It's a lot of iteration and trial and error, and it's important that really good marketers, especially in the kind of cutting edge technology and startup spaces, are doing that with an eye towards frugality and trial and error experimentation.
So how do you do your market research as you're going and trying to figure out what the public, what your target market, what they're thinking, what they're feeling? How do you go about specifically doing that research?
Yeah, that's a great question. The market research is, first, it's absolutely important to be constantly involved in what's going on in the market. For me, I've spent my career in the B2B market space. And so when I'm doing market research and having my team doing market research, it's a combination of a lot of reading and a lot of listening. So we're out there reading everything we can and everything that's published about the market space. That goes all the way from scholarly papers that are being published from universities about different technologies and capabilities and trends. We're going to primary research sites all the way through, Reddit threads and Twitter threads, and seeing kind of what how are these issues or challenges or market spaces, how are they manifesting out in the public? That's kind of the first piece, is that reading piece. The second piece is listening. And, it sounds a little bit trite, but we ask our sales and our biz dev teams, hey, can we listen in on this call? You're having a prospect call. We don't want to say anything. If necessary, we'll introduce ourselves, but sometimes we'll just literally be a fly on the wall. And our job there is to take notes, is to hear and really listen for how the customers and prospects are describing their issues, because that's what we have to go out and solve. And then the best thing that we can possibly do in that listening side of things is to actually go out on a customer or a prospect visit. That can have cost barriers or time barriers sometimes. But when those opportunities arise, we absolutely take advantage of them. What that allows us to do, right? Reading allows us to see how the market describes the problems and challenges and opportunities of the topic domain that we're doing right now at CIBO Technologies. It's this idea of regenerative agriculture and agricultural technology combined with AI and deep computer science. And so we learn about how the universities and the research organizations are writing and talking about that. That's a very considered and deliberate and thoughtful approach, because they have time to think through the issues and to present them and to do their research and to present it back. So that allows us to see kind of an eagle's eye view of the challenges that are out there. Then when we're listening to the sales calls and the biz dev conversations, when we're out on sales calls, joining physically with people, we can hear in a very kind of acute way the immediacy. What are the issues that are the most immediate and pressing, and what are the burning fires that people have to put out? And so you get this kind of long-term, kind of idealized eagle-eye view of the problem that your company is there to solve, and then you have the immediate fires that have to be put out that the companies are trying to address right now. And then what we do is we're able to take both the immediacy and that eagle-eye view and have a really deep understanding of the challenges that in our case that companies with agriculture in their supply chain face, that the ESG or sustainability reporting challenges that companies face. And then we can combine that with the deep technology and data modeling and computer simulation modeling that can happen, and the way that large companies are approaching the transition to a zero carbon economy, which is a 10, 15, 25, even 50-year project for some of these larger companies. So you get that eagle eye view, and then you get that immediate view, and that then informs what we as marketers then need to put out in terms of our messaging, our content. It puts out, where are we going to spend, digital advertising dollars? Who are we going to target with those digital advertising dollars? And all of that then informs where are we going to actually end up spending that money. So that's a constant process, right? And then you divide that and subdivide that by by industry, by segment, by persona. Then you pull out all the marketing tools to be able to make that happen and make it work.
Yeah, I always say that the best marketers are really just stalkers.
Yeah, that's true, right? We want to listen, we want to learn, we want to hear what's going on, so that in some cases we can reflect that back to the marketplace, and people go, "Oh yeah, they're really smart. They know exactly what we're facing." It's really because we just repeated in new words what you've already told us. And then as long as we have a real, an honest to God solution or an approach, or a service that addresses that challenge, then it's like, okay, yeah, these guys get it. I'm going to go talk to them. I want to learn more. I'm going to request a demo or request a sales meeting. I'm going to, sign on the dotted line. Ultimately, that's what we want to get to.
Awesome. Good. Well, that's very informative. I hadn't thought about actually going and personally sitting with someone. Like I always ask my clients to call some of their clients and talk to them. Sometimes they'll let you do that, sometimes they won't. But the idea of going and sitting down physically with clients, that's an interesting concept.
You learn so much more, I think, when you're able to do that, because you can see in body language how people are dealing with things. When people are leaning forward and really getting passionate about what they're talking about, whatever it is, okay, this matters at least to this person. And then you marry that insight with what is their boss saying, what's his or her body language about this. If they're like, hey, I've got to deal with this end of the year sustainability report, and they're really passionate about that, and the boss is kind of leaning back them and they're thinking about what they're going to have for lunch or whatever, okay, that's important to this person, not necessarily important to that other person. What's driving their, especially if they're the ones who get to write the check, what's driving their motivation. You really want to get to the point where you can combine those two. You want to make their life easier with that sustainability report, and deal with, hey, here's how we're actually going to build the business or grow the business through this whole process with with you and your team.
Interesting. So most people they'll do calls, but they wouldn't go to the lengths of actually meeting in person with someone. So that's something really interesting that you do that not everyone would take that step. All right, so changing gears a little bit. What sort of advice do you offer to those that are in the marketing industry right now?
Oh, you know what? It's I would say the biggest piece of advice is, don't put all of your eggs into one, into one basket. And specifically what I'm thinking of there is the budgetary, the budgetary eggs. There's so much marketing out there, and marketers love marketing. We love being marketed to. And so, there's so many things out there that are promising, oh, you're going to get more leads, or we're going to convert your stuff to demos, or we're going to get, we're going to grow your revenue at this rate. And marketers, we love hearing that, right? Because it's what we do and we get it reflected back at us. So yeah, we're going to respond to that. The biggest piece of advice I would say is, don't put all of your budgetary eggs into just one basket. Remember that things like advertising and subscription services and things like that, those are all amplifiers for you and what your message is. They are not the message. And so you've got to have something really, really phenomenal to amplify before you pour money and dollars on it to actually go amplify it. So I don't care if we're talking about digital marketing, and ad syndication on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is, or just straight Google AdWords or LinkedIn advertising. All of those are vehicles to amplify your message to particular audiences or target personas. You've got to get your messages right before you amplify them. Otherwise, you're just amplifying garbage, right? Nobody likes to go to a rock concert where the sound system is just trash, because the music doesn't sound good. It might be great music, but you don't want to or if it's crappy music, you don't want to want to get it to be really loud and really well mixed. You can't mix something crappy into a way that's going to be enjoyable for people to listen to. The same thing is true of marketing. And you've got to get your message right. And unfortunately, it's not a one or done thing. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. So you've got to be always tuning your message. You've got to be listening to what your audience wants to hear, what they're facing, what their needs are, so that you can create a message that resonates with them, and then you amplify. And so that's the biggest piece of advice, right? Remember, dollars and different channels for advertising and reach marketing are amplification vehicles. And what is it that you're amplifying? That's your message, that's your value proposition, that's your targeted, message to your persona, that's your elevator pitch, that's your about us, that's understanding what you do. At CIBO Technologies, we have on the marketing team what's called our messaging core. This is a living document. We're updating this multiple times a quarter, and we have different pieces that feed into it that are updated at least 2-3 times a month, because we're always tuning and tweaking that little message for this industry or that industry, for a senior executive versus a mid-level employee or a low-level employee. All of them are important to us, but we want to make sure that we're hitting hitting them with the message that's going to resonate with them before we try and make it loud. And so I think a lot of marketers, especially young marketers, are like, let's go loud. Because honestly, it's easy to go loud. All you need is dollars, and there's somebody willing to take your dollars and put it out there on whatever channel or channels that are available. And we're drowning in channels. I mean, there's so many cool channels and cool ways of getting our messages out that sometimes we forget, what is it that we're messaging? What is it that we're trying to say? So get that right. Do it small, do it incrementally, and then amplify, and realize that you're not going to be amplifying forever. You're going to be amplifying for 3 weeks. You're going to be amplifying for maybe 3 months. If you're amplifying for more than a quarter, you're probably boring people or missing the mark at the end of that time. So that's kind of where I would go, is like, figure out what you're saying, what your message is, before you try and go loud and amplify it.
Awesome. Great advice. Great advice. Yeah, it's all in understanding your persona. There's a lot of marketers now that are just kind of guessing, but that's kind of like just shooting into the wind, without looking, basically, and hoping that it hits the target.
I was a fractional CMO a number of years ago for a company that this is one of my big learnings, right? We did what we ended up calling their drift net fishing, where we were just casting a wide net and hoping that we caught people in this big giant drift net. And we got some, but we ended up spending a ton of money getting a whole bunch of crap in that drift net that were not either our target audience, that didn't care about what we said or what we did, and we're spending money trying to get them. And what we shifted to is like basically a line catch, fishing, or a spear fishing metaphor, where we're like, let's go after the specific people that we want with something that's going to be targeted and interesting to them, rather than trying to spend all this money and, catch a whale in a drift net. And that's not, these are really non-ecological metaphors that I'm using. They're pretty terrible from an environmental standpoint, but I think the word picture kind of gets across there.
No, those are good analogies. I like that. Awesome. So just tell us, Billy, who do you like to work with? So in the event that you're going to be diving more into the fractional CMO side in the future, what would be your dream company to work with?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I love working with private equity and venture capital backed technology startups. That's my jam. The companies that are small, that are very growth oriented. Growth is what gets me up in the morning and gets me excited to work. I've done the big giant, tech company, big giant global tech company before, and they're super important. That what they do is great work. That's just not for me. So I like small, agile, tech-focused B2B companies that are private equity or venture capital backed because they have targets, they move fast, and they're focused on growth. And if we're not growing, then we're not doing something right. And either we fix it or we get out. So that's, and it doesn't really, I've worked in all different sorts of sectors in the B2B technology market. I'm in agricultural technology right now. Never done that before, but it's absolutely fascinating. Before that, I was in cybersecurity. And before that, I was in, contingent workforce management and human resources management marketplaces. I've built SaaS marketplaces, and I've built content management systems, and worked with all
Oh
of the
yeah,
big
man,
name
that
technologies that are around. But it all comes down for me to working with small growth oriented startup technology companies that have a little bit of money and a whole lot of chutzpah to grow and provide something amazing to the market.
yeah, the agricultural technology is so fascinating. It's unbelievable, like that they put a chip in the cow that tells you when it drinks water, and it's crazy.
It's
A friend
it's
of mine was working
absolutely
with that.
fascinating. And the stuff that we do at CIBO Technologies, we're focused on crops. Our customer is not the farmer. The farmer is one side of our marketplace, but all the goods and services we provide to the farmer are absolutely free. We work with the companies who have agriculture in their supply chain somewhere, and they're focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, on doing carbon farming, which is absolutely fascinating now, right? Minting carbon credits from farming, all of this to help, alleviate and solve the challenges of climate change. All of these to help spur and scale regenerative agriculture, which just improves the soil and improves our food security. And the sectors that we talk to are, the food, the feed, the fuel, and the fabric or fiber companies. As a marketer, right, we love our alliteration. So, we've got people doing, corn and soy and wheat farming. We've got that's on the food side. On the feed side, right, a bunch of those crops go into feedstock for animals that we eat, or it's the food our food eats. The fuel is all the ethanol and the biodiesel and the bio.
I lost you, Billy.
The stuff that goes into what we wear being grown in a much more sustainable and regenerative fashion that helps alleviate the challenges of climate change.
I lost you a moment there.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We'll edit that out. Don't worry. Don't worry. All right. Totally selfish question. What other successful people in marketing like yourself would you like to acknowledge that should be on this podcast?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. My mentor is a gentleman by the name of Reed Watson. Reed Watson is his own fractional professional. He's absolutely amazing. He's been CEO and CMO and basically every other C-level CRO position that's out there in the upper Midwest. He's worked for massive global corporations as well as very tiny startups. I wouldn't be where I am without giving him props. Also, Michelle Huff CMO over at User Testing. She and I worked on the same team many years ago, and she's just an absolutely amazing woman, an accomplished marketer, and really an inspirational a person with just a great story. So I love, even though we don't work together anymore, I love watching what she's doing and what her organization, User Testing, is doing, especially in the realm of bringing empathy into marketing and to understanding customer sentiment and user behaviors and user desires. I talked about the importance of listening. Their company is entirely built around that concept of empathetic listening. So she's hands down just a
cool
top-notch
company.
marketer.
Yeah, that is a cool company. That's cool that you know the CMO of that company. That's pretty
Yep, I know the CMO. Their CEO, Andy McMillan, was one of my he was my boss back in the early 2000s. So he and Michelle and I all worked together very closely. It's a great organization.
Awesome. Thank you for that recommendation. We'll definitely be reaching out to him.
Sure.
All right, one final question. This is just for fun. Tell me the oldest technology that you remember using.
Oh my goodness. Oldest technology. I mean, we've got, of course, the old record players and cassette decks where you've got like the rectangle and the pop-up piece and you slip the cassette tape in there.
Record is pretty old. It's hard.
Record, yeah, and I know they're coming back and they're like super popular now, kind of like in a hipster way. But oh yeah, man, I was listening to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, full-size records on my little record player in my room when I was a kid. And then from a computer technology, shoot, I went to I was in college before the World Wide Web was a thing. And was actually in graduate school when that, was turned on and became popular. So that was kind of fun. I think my first laptop was an old, I want to say a Toshiba, this giant behemoth of a thing with this tiny little flip top that came up and it had 4 or 5 lines all in monochrome orange, and with the big giant floppy disk that would go on the side, and it would probably ran, I don't know, some goofy DOS operating system. So there was definitely that, and that was college, and we very quickly went from that to to where we are now, right, where I'm surrounded by a couple MacBook Pros on my desk here, and I've got a more powerful computer in my cell phone than I do in anything that I had in the last 20 years. So it's wild.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the record's that's pretty old technology. That's one of the older ones. One of the ones that's super old that people mention is the Commodore.
Oh, sure. Yep. I was not fortunate enough to have that. My best friend had an old Commodore 64, and we would have fun playing with programming in BASIC and making goofy things show up on the screen. I remember doing that.
That's pretty.
That was probably what, third grade. Yeah, the record player was I was even younger than that, but
yeah, that's even, the record player goes back to way back. Would it be, when did they first come out, record players? That'd be something interesting.
Oh, well, I mean, they were, I mean, you got phonographs and stuff way back, before the turn of the century.
But the record player, as you see them,
little portable record players, that was 1970s. So
yeah, maybe 1960s they first started popping up and selling them in mass, something like that.
So that is before my time. I'm a 1970s a child of the 70s. So
yeah. So, but it'd be interesting to research that and see.
Yeah, it sure would.
That might,
especially now, right? It's like one of the hottest, Christmas gifts and holiday gifts this year, I think, is people like, oh, let's get a record player and a little suitcase. It's like total throwback, like that old thing.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a vintage type deal that you see them, people decorate their houses with that. And
it sure do.
Yeah. All right. So that you may have taken the cake for the oldest technology. I don't know. I'd have to look
I
at
don't know
that.
how I feel
I'd have to
about
look at
that.
that.
Oh
You
my
did better than
God.
mom. I always mention this. My first podcast I did with my mom just to practice, and she works for Cisco. She's not in marketing, and I asked her this
Okay.
question, and she said a pencil. So
Oh,
pencils
okay. There
the
you go.
technology that I was like, okay, thanks, mom. That was great. That was
Well, I mean, we can go back to the ancient Greeks, right? And you've got Plato and Socrates complaining about the technology of writing, and how it's going to ruin everybody's ability to remember and to memorize things. There's this big technological backlash about writing things down in books and scrolls because it would hinder our ability to memorize.
That's true to a point. They were right. They were right about that. I can't even remember my birthday almost because I have.
No, this is my
Yeah,
digital
yeah. It's like I
prosthetic now. This
can't
is
remember
my
anything, people's name. It just like it took away
yeah.
my memory. So I gotta start doing exercises, to try to get my
You
memory
know,
better.
funny story about that. This 2 weekends ago, I was out visiting my daughter at her college, and we went to her college football game. They won. All the students stormed the field. It was bedlam. It was so much fun, and my phone died. Like ran out of battery. Just I was videotaping all the things, just completely died. And I'm like, I've got no way to get back in touch with my daughter, who's somewhere out in the field and then went back to her dorm, or whatever it was. And so I'm walking back to my hotel with next to a couple of other folks, and they're like, hey, well, you can use our phone. And I went, that would be great, except I have no idea what my daughter's phone number is. I have zero. I couldn't even tell you the area code. It's just
Yeah.
under her name. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit of that indictment with, once my digital memory prosthetic here dies, I need to do some work on that and at least start remembering some of those important names and numbers. But it's true. It's like this stuff has really become integral to who we are and to how
Yeah.
we operate. So
Yeah. I have a backup though. It's my wife. I just ask her. She just
smart.
she
So that's,
just knows.
that's another prosthetic for you. You've got a human double there. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. She's got a great memory. So hey, what's the number?
Perfect.
Yeah. You can't remember. All right, we're gonna shut it down here. We try to keep our podcast short. Thanks, Billy, so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Once again, we stream this live Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also release it on YouTube, so we stream it across social media. And then you can, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get it'll come out at the same time, 11 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like and subscribe. Share the podcast if you think it's interesting. And this has been The Life of a Marketer. Over and out.